The rhythmic thump of a hammer against worn shingles echoed through the cemetery as Parker Anderson wiped sweat from his brow, glancing down from the chapel roof to check on his daughter. 6-year-old Lily sat cross-legged under the shade of an oak tree, carefully coloring in her sketchbook while occasionally looking up to wave at her father. Parker returned the gesture with a smile that masked his exhaustion. 14 hours of work yesterday, and now this weekend side job to make ends meet. "Almost done up there," called Mr. Donnelly, the cemetery caretaker who'd hired Parker to repair the leaky chapel roof. "Another hour should do it," Parker called back, returning to the task. The $200 for this job meant Lily could get new shoes for school and maybe they could splurge on pizza tonight. As a single father working multiple jobs, these calculations constantly ran through his mind, every dollar earmarked before it was even earned. That's when he noticed her. A woman in a tailored black dress standing before a fresh grave about 50 yards away. Even from this distance, Parker could see her shoulders trembling slightly. She was alone, completely alone, and something about that solitary figure stirred something in him. When the woman collapsed to her knees, Parker didn't hesitate. He scrambled down the ladder, quickly checked on Lily's "Stay here, sweetie, color your picture," and jogged across the neatly trimmed grass. "Madam," he approached cautiously, not wanting to intrude, "are you all right?" She looked up, and Parker was struck by the raw grief etched across her striking features. She couldn't have been older than 35, with chestnut hair pulled back in a tight bun that was now coming undone. "I'm fine," she said automatically, though her reddened eyes told a different story. "I just need a moment," Parker nodded, intending to leave, but then hesitated. "My daughter and I have some water and sandwiches over there. Sometimes it helps to not be alone." The woman looked past him to where Lily was now standing, watching with curious eyes. Something in her expression softened. "Thank you, but Dad, can I bring her a juice box?" Lily called out, already digging through their small cooler. Parker gave an apologetic shrug. Once she gets an idea in her head. A ghost of a smile touched the woman's lips. "I suppose a juice box wouldn't hurt." That's how Hannah Harrington, though Parker didn't know her name yet, ended up sitting on a cemetery bench beside a contractor in work-stained clothes, and a little girl with pigtails who insisted on showing her every crayon in her collection. "This one's periwinkle," Lily explained seriously. "It's like blue but more. Periwinkle why?" "That's very precise," Hannah replied, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly for the first time since the funeral service had ended 2 hours earlier. She'd sent everyone away, the executives, the board members, the so-called family friends, all the people who'd come to pay respects to her father, telecommunications magnate George Harrington. None of them had known the real man, the father who'd taught her to fly kites and build model airplanes, who'd left her the company but taken all his warmth when cancer claimed him 3 weeks ago. "I'm Parker," he said, extending a calloused hand, "and the crayon expert is Lily." "Hannah," she replied, taking his hand briefly. "Thank you for the juice box. It was unexpectedly perfect." Parker noticed her designer watch, the quality of her dress. "I should let you have your space. We didn't mean to intrude." "You didn't," Hannah said quickly, surprising herself. "Actually, it's nice to talk about something other than." Her eyes drifted to the grave. "My dad used to say that grief needs air to breathe," Parker said softly. "Keeping it bottled up only makes it harder. Your dad sounds wise. He was past 5 years ago." Parker's voice held no self-pity, just a quiet understanding. "It gets easier, but on some days it still hits hard." Hannah studied him, this stranger who'd climbed down from a roof to check on her. No agenda, no business angle, no awareness of who she was, just human kindness. "Would you and Lily like to get ice cream?" she found herself asking. "I could use the company, and I'm sure roof repair works up an appetite." Lily's eyes widened. "Can we, Dad, please?" Parker hesitated, glancing at his unfinished job. "I can come back tomorrow," he said finally. "Mr. Donnelly won't mind." An hour later, they sat outside a small ice cream parlor near the cemetery. Hannah watched as Parker helped Lily wipe chocolate from her chin, his movements practiced and tender. "So what do you do, Hannah?" Parker asked, making conversation. Hannah hesitated. Normally, she'd say she ran Harrington Communications, a company with 20,000 employees across 3 continents. But something made her hold back. "I work in telecommunications," she said instead. "Pretty boring stuff. What about you?" "Construction mainly. Some electrical work, plumbing when I can get it. Single dad stuff the rest of the time," he grinned, gesturing toward Lily, who was carefully sorting her sprinkles by color. Lily's mom isn't in the picture. A shadow crossed Parker's face. "Car accident when Lily was 2, been just a since then." "I'm sorry," Hannah said, genuinely moved. "That must be incredibly difficult," Parker shrugged. "We manage, right, pumpkin?" "Dad makes heart-shaped pancakes on Sundays," Lily informed Hannah seriously. "And he does all the voices when he reads stories." "Sounds like he's pretty good at his job," Hannah said, earning a beaming smile from Parker that made something flutter in her chest. As the afternoon stretched on, Hannah found herself reluctant to leave. There was something refreshingly authentic about Parker and Lily. No pretense, no angle, just a hard-working father and his daughter offering kindness to a stranger. "I should get going," Hannah finally said, glancing at her watch. "Thank you both for the distraction. It helped more than you know." "Anytime," Parker said sincerely, "and I mean that. If you ever need to talk." Hannah surprised herself by asking for his number. "Just in case I need a handyman," she said lightly, though they both knew that wasn't the real reason. Over the next few weeks, Hannah found herself texting Parker occasionally simple things at first. She asked how the chapel roof had turned out. He sent a picture of the finished job with Lily giving a thumbs up. She told him about her sleepless nights, and he recommended his foolproof remedy: warm milk with a dash of nutmeg. He never pried about the person she'd lost, just offered quiet understanding. What Hannah didn't mention was how she was drowning at work. As the new CEO of Harrington Communications, she was fighting battles on all fronts, board members questioning her leadership, a potential hostile takeover looming, and the crushing weight of her father's legacy pressing down on her shoulders. 3 weeks after their cemetery meeting, Hannah was sitting in her corner office overlooking Seattle's skyline when her phone chimed with a text from Parker. "Lily's school is having a career day tomorrow. She asked if you might come talk about telecomunications," her pronunciation. "No pressure, just passing along the request." Hannah smiled at the message, then froze as she realized the complication. If she went to Lily's school, she'd have to explain who she really was. The news of her taking over Harrington Communications had been in all the business journals. Her father's obituary had run in major newspapers. Someone would recognize her. She started to type a polite refusal, then stopped. The truth was, her conversations with Parker had become a lifeline during these difficult weeks. He texted her dad jokes when she mentioned having a rough day. He never complained about his own struggles, though she could read between the lines when he mentioned picking up extra shifts. And Lily had sent her a crayon drawing of what appeared to be Hannah standing between Lily and Parker, all holding hands. Hannah made her decision and called Parker instead of texting back. "Hey, this is a nice surprise," his warm voice answered. "About career day," Hannah began, "there's something I should probably tell you first. You're secretly a spy and telecommunications is just your cover," he joked. Hannah took a deep breath. "Not quite that exciting. The truth is, I'm the CEO of Harrington Communications. The person I was mourning that day was my father, George Harrington." The silence stretched for several seconds. "Parker, sorry, just processing," he finally said. "So when you said you work in telecommunications, you meant you run one of the largest companies in the country?" "Yes," she admitted. "I should have been upfront. That day at the cemetery, you treated me like a normal person who needed help, not like Hannah Harrington, CEO." It felt nice to just be Hannah for a while. Another pause. "So, about career day," she prompted nervously. "Lily will be thrilled," Parker said finally, his voice warming again. "But fair warning, she'll have about 1,000,000 questions." Relief flooded through Hannah. "I can handle tough questions. I face the board of directors quarterly." "Trust me, Lily's tougher," Parker laughed. The next day, Hannah parked her modest Audi, deliberately choosing not to take her usual chauffeured town car outside Evergreen Elementary. She dressed down in simple black pants and a blue blouse professional. but not intimidating for a classroom of first graders. Parker was waiting at the front entrance, and the smile that lit up his face when he saw her caused that now familiar flutter in her chest. "Fair warning," he said as he walked her inside. "I told Lily who you really are, and she's been telling everyone her friend runs the whole internet." Hannah laughed. "Not quite accurate, but I appreciate the promotion." When they reached the classroom, Lily bolted from her seat and wrapped her arms around Hannah's waist. "You came. Dad said you're super important and busy." "Not too busy for my friends," Hannah said, surprised by how much she meant it. Career day was a revelation for Hannah. After weeks of cutthroat board meetings and merger discussions, explaining satellite communications to wide-eyed 6-year-olds felt refreshingly pure. She'd brought child-friendly demonstrations, a mini satellite model, and walkie-talkies for the kids to try. When one little boy asked if she was rich like Scrooge McDuck, the entire class erupted in giggles. "No swimming pools of gold coins," she assured them with a smile, "but I do have a very important job making sure people can talk to each other all over the world." Throughout her presentation, Hannah kept finding her gaze drawn to Parker, who leaned against the back wall watching with undisguised pride both in his daughter's enthusiastic questions and somehow in Hannah herself. After class, the teacher pulled Hannah aside. "Miss Harrington, it's an honor having you. And may I say, Lily talks about you constantly. It's been wonderful for her to have a female role model since." The teacher trailed off, but Hannah understood, since her mother died. As they walked to the parking lot, Parker seemed uncharacteristically quiet. "Something wrong?" Hannah asked. "Just trying to reconcile the Hannah I've been texting with the powerhouse CEO I just watched charm an entire classroom," he admitted. "It's a bit intimidating." Hannah stopped walking. "Parker, nothing's changed. I'm still the same person who needed a juice box in a cemetery. Except you're someone who could buy the cemetery if you wanted," he said, only half joking. "That's not fair," Hannah replied, feeling a knot form in her stomach. "Does it really matter what my job is?" Parker ran a hand through his hair. "No, yes, I don't know. It's just, you live in a different world, Hannah." "Do I?" she challenged. "Because these past few weeks talking to you and Lily have felt more real than anything in my life." Their eyes locked, and Hannah saw the conflict in his gaze attraction warring with insecurity. Lily broke the tension by skipping up to them. "Dad, can Hannah come for dinner? Please, I want to show her my rock collection." Parker looked at Hannah questioningly. "I'd love to see your rocks," Hannah said to Lily, then raised her eyes to Parker's. "If that's all right with your dad." He hesitated only briefly before nodding. "Hope you like spaghetti. It's about the extent of my culinary expertise." Hannah followed them to their modest 2-bedroom apartment in a working-class neighborhood. The building was well-maintained but clearly aging, with window air conditioning units and a laundry room in the basement. Parker looked embarrassed as he unlocked the door. "It's not much, but it's perfect," Hannah interrupted, stepping inside to find a cozy living room with mismatched furniture that somehow worked together. Children's artwork adorned the refrigerator. A bookshelf overflowed with well-worn volumes. It felt like a home in ways her massive downtown penthouse never had. Lily immediately pulled Hannah to her room to show off her prized rocks while Parker started dinner. The little girl's enthusiasm was contagious as she explained each specimen's origin and special properties. "And this one glows in the dark," Lily exclaimed, holding up a small white stone. "Dad bought it at the Science Museum for my birthday." Hannah listened attentively, struck by how different this child's life was from her own privileged upbringing, and yet how much happier Lily seemed than Hannah had been at that age, surrounded by nannies in a mansion while her parents worked. When they emerged for dinner, Hannah found Parker setting the table with paper napkins carefully folded into triangles. "Fancy," she teased gently. "Only the best for our guest," he replied with a self-deprecating smile. During dinner, Hannah watched how Parker engaged with Lily, asking about her day, listening intently to her stories, gently reminding her to eat her vegetables. There was a patience and tenderness in their interaction that touched something deep within Hannah. As Parker served Lily's favorite ice cream for dessert, the little girl announced, Dad says we can't afford to go to the aquarium for the field trip next month. Parker's face flushed. Lily, that's not appropriate dinner conversation. It's okay, Hannah said quickly. Field trips can be expensive. It's $40, Lily explained seriously. Dad says that's grocery money. Lily, Parker said more firmly, the embarrassment clear on his face. Actually, Hannah said carefully, I was thinking of visiting the aquarium myself soon. Maybe the three of us could go together sometime. My treat as a thank you for sharing your spaghetti. Parker started to object, but Lily's excited gasp made him pause. Can we, Dad, please? He looked at Hannah, who mouthed silently, please let me. We'll see, he finally said, which made Lily cheer as though he definitely agreed. After Lily went to bed, Parker and Hannah sat on his small balcony, mugs of tea warming their hands in the cool evening air. I'm sorry about the aquarium thing, Parker said. I don't want you to think that you're struggling to make ends meet while raising a wonderful daughter on your own, Hannah interrupted gently. Parker, I've known that since we met. It doesn't change how I see you. And how exactly do you see me? He asked, his voice low. Hannah set down her tea. I see someone who climbed down from a roof to help a stranger, who makes heart-shaped pancakes on Sundays and does all the voices when reading bedtime stories, who works multiple jobs without complaint to give his daughter everything she needs. Parker's gaze fell to his worn hands. I should be able to afford a simple field trip. And I should be able to handle grief without collapsing in a cemetery, Hannah countered. We all have our moments. Their eyes met in the dim light, and Hannah felt something shift between them, a barrier dissolving. Hannah, Parker said softly, I like you, more than I should probably admit, but our worlds are so different. Maybe that's exactly why we fit, she whispered. When Parker leaned forward and kissed her, gently at first, then with growing confidence, Hannah felt like she was finally coming home after a long journey. The following weeks transformed both their lives. Hannah found herself spending evenings at Parker's apartment, helping Lily with homework, or simply enjoying family dinners. On weekends, they explored Seattle together, not the exclusive restaurants Hannah usually frequented, but farmers markets, community festivals, and yes, the aquarium. Parker still worked his multiple jobs, refusing Hannah's subtle offers of financial help. I need to stand on my own 2 feet, he'd explained. It's important for Lily to see that. Hannah respected his pride, though she found ways to contribute that he could accept bringing groceries for dinner, buying educational toys for Lily as just because gifts, using her company's box seats for a baseball game that made Parker's eyes light up like a child's. At work, Hannah's colleagues noticed the change in her. The perpetual furrow between her brows had smoothed. She laughed more easily. Even during the tensest negotiations over the company's future, she maintained a centered calm that commanded respect. Whatever you're doing differently, keep it up, her CFO commented after a particularly successful board meeting. What she was doing differently was allowing herself to be vulnerable, to need someone else's lessons she was learning from Parker and Lily. Each night that she didn't stay at their apartment, they texted until one of them fell asleep. Parker sent her silly jokes and photos of Lily's latest art projects. Hannah found herself sharing the pressures of her position, the weight of decisions affecting thousands of lives. You'll make the right call, Parker assured her during one late-night call as Hannah agonized over a potential merger. You care about people, not just profits. That's why you're different. His confidence bolstered her own, and when Hannah ultimately decided against the merger that would have resulted in massive layoffs, she knew it was the right choice, regardless of what the board thought. After 6 weeks of dating, Hannah invited Parker and Lily to her penthouse for the first time. She'd been putting it off, worried that seeing her wealth up close might create distance between them. But as their relationship deepened, the omission felt increasingly like dishonesty. Whoa, Lily whispered as they stepped off the private elevator into Hannah's sleek, modern apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Seattle skyline. You can see everything. Parker stood silently taking in the expansive space, the designer furniture, the original artwork on the walls. His expression was unreadable. It's just a place, Hannah said nervously. It never really felt like home. Lily ran from window to window, pressing her nose against the glass. Dad. I can see our building from here, Parker finally smiled, though Hannah could see the tension in it. It's beautiful, Hannah, she took his hand. Are you okay with this, with all of it? He squeezed her fingers. I'm trying to be, it's just a lot to take in. You know what this place needs. Hannah said suddenly. Lily's artwork on the refrigerator, that broke the tension. Parker laughed, pulling her close, among other things. That evening, as they cooked dinner together in Hannah's rarely used gourmet kitchen, she watched Parker and Lily move around the space, gradually becoming more comfortable, bringing life and warmth to rooms that had always felt sterile. Later, after Lily had fallen asleep in the guest bedroom surrounded by plush pillows, Parker joined Hannah on her balcony. I've been offered a job, he said without preamble. Supervisor position with Westlake Construction. Better hours, benefits, significant pay increase. Parker. That's wonderful, Hannah exclaimed, genuinely thrilled. I start next month, he continued, which means I can afford a better apartment, maybe even start a college fund for Lily. Hannah heard something in his voice. That's all good news, so why do you sound worried? Parker turned to face her directly. Because I need you to know I'm not with you for what you can give us, that I can provide for my daughter, that I'm not. I know that, Hannah interrupted, taking his hands. I've never once thought otherwise. People will, he said bluntly. When they see us together, CEO and construction worker, they'll assume, let them assume, Hannah said fiercely. We know the truth. Parker pulled her into his arms. The truth is I'm falling in love with you, Hannah Harrington. CEO, juice box provider, rock collection enthusiast, all of you. Hannah's heart soared. And I'm falling in love with you, Parker Anderson, master of pancake art, voice actor extraordinaire, and the kindest man I've ever known. Their kiss sealed a promise neither had expected to make when they'd met 3 months earlier in a cemetery. As winter turned to spring, their lives continued to intertwine in ways both ordinary and extraordinary. Hannah helped Lily plant a container garden on Parker's new apartment balcony. Parker surprised Hannah by taking night classes to better understand business management. Not because I want to work for you, he'd explained, but because I want to understand your world. They navigated the inevitable challenges together. The society pages eventually caught wind of their relationship, running stories with headlines like "Telecom heiress slums it with single dad." Parker's new colleagues sometimes treated him differently when they discovered who his girlfriend was. And there was the disastrous dinner with Hannah's mother, who barely concealed her disdain for Parker's background. Through it all, they held firm to what mattered, the family they were building, the love that had caught them both by surprise. 1 year after their meeting, Parker took Hannah back to the cemetery. He'd arranged with Mr. Donnelly to have a small cherry tree planted near her father's grave. I thought you might like a living memorial, Parker explained as they stood before the sapling. Something that grows and changes like grief does. Hannah leaned against him, tears welling in her eyes. It's perfect. Dad would have loved it. As Lily skipped ahead of them along the path, Parker stopped walking and turned to Hannah. There's something I've been wanting to ask you, he said, sudden nervousness evident in his voice. Anything, Hannah replied. To her surprise, Parker dropped to one knee, pulling a small box from his pocket. This was my mother's, he said, opening it to reveal a simple but elegant diamond ring. Nothing fancy compared to what you're used to, it's beautiful, Hannah breathed. Hannah Harrington, you came into our lives when we weren't looking for anything except the next paycheck. You've brought joy, understanding, and so much love to Lily and me. Would you do us the honor of making our little family official? Will you marry me? Yes, Hannah said without hesitation, tears streaming freely now. 1,000 times yes. As Parker slipped the ring onto her finger, Lily came racing back. Did you ask her? Did she say yes? She demanded excitedly. She said yes, pumpkin, Parker confirmed, lifting his daughter into a group hug. Does this mean I can call you Mom now? Lily asked Hannah directly, her eyes serious. Hannah felt her heart might burst. If you want to, I would be honored. I've been practicing, Lily admitted. In my head. That evening, as they celebrated with a picnic in the park, champagne for the adults, sparkling cider for Lily, Hannah marveled at how completely her life had transformed in just 1 year. What are you thinking? Parker asked, noticing her contemplative expression. "That I'm grateful my father's funeral was on the same day you were fixing that chapel roof," she said honestly. "And that you were the kind of man who would climb down a ladder to help a stranger. Best decision I ever made," Parker said, kissing her softly. 6 months later, they married in that same chapel, its roof now sound and sturdy. The ceremony was small. Hannah had insisted, despite her mother's protests about appearances. Lily served as flower girl and ring bearer, taking both roles with solemn importance. During their vows, Parker spoke of second chances and unexpected blessings. Hannah spoke of finding strength in vulnerability and home in a person rather than a place. As they exited the chapel as husband and wife, with Lily skipping ahead throwing additional flower petals, Hannah paused at the top of the steps. "What is it?" Parker asked, concerned. Hannah smiled, looking out over the cemetery where they'd first met, now vibrant with spring flowers. "Just thinking about how grief led me to the greatest joy of my life." "Your dad would be proud of you," Parker said softly. "Not because you're running his company successfully, though you are, but because you've built a life filled with love." Hannah squeezed his hand. "Our life." "Our life," he agreed, leading her down the steps to where Lily waited, her dress already grass-stained from exploring while the photographer set up. 2 years later, Hannah gave birth to their son, George, named after her father. By then, Parker had been promoted again and started his own small construction company on the side, specializing in affordable housing renovations, a project Hannah supported both personally and through her corporate foundation. They'd compromised on living arrangements, purchasing a comfortable family home halfway between Hannah's downtown office and Lily's school. It wasn't as grand as Hannah's penthouse, nor as modest as Parker's apartment had been. It was simply theirs, filled with Lily's artwork, Parker's handcrafted furniture, and the noise and chaos of a growing family. On Sunday mornings, Parker still made heart-shaped pancakes, now for 4 instead of 2. Hannah still ran one of the country's largest telecommunications companies, but never missed school events or family dinners. And Lily, now 9, proudly told anyone who would listen how her dad had helped her mom when she was sad, and how that had turned into the best family ever. Sometimes when the children were asleep, Hannah and Parker would sit on their back porch, his arm around her shoulders, and marvel at the journey that had brought them together. "Do you ever regret it?" Parker asked once, "marrying someone from such a different world?" Hannah smiled, leaning into his embrace. "The only thing I regret is that we didn't meet sooner." "Everything happens when it's supposed to," Parker replied, kissing her forehead. "We met exactly when we both needed each other most, and that, Hannah knew, was the truest thing of all." A chance encounter in a cemetery had led to a love that had healed them, both the CEO and the single dad, finding in each other the missing pieces they hadn't even known they were searching for.